You refuse to cooperate, you'll be as guilty as the traitors that gave Stalin the Aba.
Are you waving a flag at me?
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
It's one fucking hour time. That's right. The show where we talk about one goddamn movie, and we have just one fucking hour to do it. I'm Evan Husney, of course. To my left, we got Miss Ramey Bennett. Ramey, welcome back.
Good evening.
Good evening. And we got, hey, Marcus, how's that whip still cracking over there? Huh?
I forget the line. What does he say? Like,
something like
you
that.
know, it always is.
You know, like, whip is always cracking.
You're coming at me with that like 1950s criminal underworld argot right off the bat.
I love it. I love it. There's so much of that tonight that we're going to get into. But of course, Mr. Marcus Herring is here, and we're talking episode 153 of the show, because tonight we're getting into a movie from 1953, because we're, of course, doing that whole little cool thing where every episode number that we got corresponds to the year of the movie, and we're going to do that until we get up to present time. So we got a long way to go.
Yeah.
Many weeks.
It's going to look like a bell curve of coolness, right? It's like the 50s, and then it gets a little better, and then the 70s, 80s, and then it starts to go back, 90s, whatever, it starts to go back down. And
I know.
by 2026, it's going to be like...
Once we get to like 2006, I'm worried about that. The hell's that gonna be?
I hope we like make it that far.
Is there
We'll see.
even a movie from that year?
Who knows where
I
we're
think
gonna
so.
be? Who knows what's
Well,
going
somebody DM me, one of our listeners, our regulars, DM me, and he's like, "Oh, now that you guys are doing this 50s, into the 60s and beyond thing, that means there's going to be no more dunking booth episodes. There's going to be no stinkers." Oh, that's what he said. There's going to be no stinkers for a while, and I said, "Well, maybe not. I don't know."
That's a good point.
I know.
Yeah.
We might have to put a 70s or 80s stinker in there somewhere.
But we could also do
why
like
not?
interstitial little stinkers
I know we love our stinkers.
in between.
Yeah.
We'll do like little bonus eps.
I know. We should try to do the inverse of what we're doing here
That would
on
be cool.
Right.
Patreon. We should
The
try
original intent was to do like to spend one fucking hour talking about what makes a movie work or not
I know.
work.
Yeah,
right.
right, right. We've deviated a little.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
yeah. But anyway, tonight is a movie from 1953. And what is it? Of course, it is Samuel Fuller's, our first Fuller, Pickup on South Street is what we're going to be looking at tonight. So very excited for that. Very interesting movie. Made at a very interesting time in the country. And of course, one of the greats of 50s cinema and this time period, of course, Samuel Fuller, very interesting character in and himself. So very excited to do that. Little bit of house cleaning from last week. I did want to mention really quickly because it's top of mind, and I wanted to give the viewers an extra week to participate in this. But we have an active contest going on right now that is themed around last week's episode, Sudden Fear. We did. Thank you everybody who watched last week's episode. That was a lot of fun, a lot of great feedback. And we sort of put a hypothetical out there for everybody that if this Sudden Fear was remade in the 90s, if this were hypothetically remade as a snapper DVD, snapcase DVD 90s erotic thriller, who would you cast in the lead characters? And I mean, who would you cast as Joan Crawford? Who would you cast as Jack Palance and Gloria Graham? We need the trifecta there. A lot of great comments thus far, but we're going to pick the best one.
There were some great suggestions.
I know you guys are working overtime. It's fantastic.
Really amazing.
We're going to pick the best one, and the winner gets a sign. Oh, I can't even, Marcus, did you know this? When I was editing the episode, I fucking didn't even know this, but Sudden Fear was released on Snapper. The actual movie is a snapper, which is insane. So I ordered the snapper. So whoever picks, we will judge who picks the best fantasy casting, and we're going to send you the snapper of Sudden Fear signed by all three of us. Going to also send you the Blu-ray of Sudden Fear That's amazing. The Cohen collection, the Roy Cohen collection. And just kidding.
Does it snap?
No, it does snap a little. Actually, the snap might be broken a little. But this is an amazing Blu-ray, great commentary, great disc. So we're going to send you all that shit and a year free of the Patreon that we're going to give you access to. Whoever has the best fantasy cast. So check out last week's episode if you haven't already to participate in the Sudden Fear contest. Anyway, let's do a quick shout out before we get started with the episode. A quick shout out to the One Fucking Hour Patreon, y'all. New rules. Patreon.com/one fucking hour is where you can sign up. It's just $5 a month. It gives you instant access to all of our bonus episodes. We have one that we did semi-recently on the top 100 films of the 21st century per the New York Times. Our sort of curmudgeon response and rebuttal to that list, going through every individual movie. It's over 2 hours, the episode. So if you want bonus material, it's up there alongside all of the audio commentary tracks we've done and other bonus episodes. You also get like 36 to 48 hours early access to every single new episode of the show, like this one. You can see almost 2 days before everybody else does. Just $5 a month. Or if you want all your bonus content to live on YouTube, find the join button underneath this video. Click that. Become a Momen of the YouTube channel. Same price, same benefits, same perks, same shit. And we appreciate it nonetheless. Of course, all your contributions via the Patreon or YouTube, 100% of that is going to be going to support our One Fucking Hour brother, Tom Fitzgerald, of course. Shout out. He's on medical leave currently from the show, but we're trying to raise as much money as we can to help him with his recovery. So we appreciate you all who've donated and subscribed thus far. You guys rule. Thank you so much. So, all right, One Fucking Hour Patreon. All right, y'all. You ready to get into tonight's flick?
I think so.
Anything that needs to be said, or we can...
Let's do it.
We can just do it. Okay, let me fire up the clock. 1 second. Oh, I got to restart that guy. Okay. Oh, 1 second. Okay. Okay, here we go. There's the clock. All right, everybody. I think this is the right sound effect. I'm going to find out. Okay, here we go. Lock and loaded. Nope, not. I knew it. I have 2 gun sound effects, okay?
Oh, really?
It's hard to mix. It's easy to mix them up. Okay, here we go. All right. Locked and loaded. Hang on. All right.
Every time.
All right, starting off as we always do here with a little synopsis action. This is from the Criterion Blu-ray of this movie that we just picked up. Highly recommend checking out this, of course. Looks great. Fantastic. All right. Petty crook Skip McCoy, played by Richard Widmark, has his eyes fixed on the big score. When the cocky 3-time convict picks the pocketbook of unsuspecting Candy, played by Gene Peters, he finds a more spectacular haul than he ever could have imagined. A strip of microfilm bearing confidential U.S. information. Tailed by manipulative feds and the unwitting courier's communist puppeteers, Skip and Candy find themselves in a precarious gambit that pits greed against redemption, right against red, and passion against self-preservation. With its dazzling cast and writer-director Samuel Fuller's signature hard-boiled repartee and raw energy, Pickup on South Street is a true film noir classic by one of America's most passionate cinematic craftspeople. So there you go. That is the
Craftsperson.
Craftsperson. Yeah.
Oh,
there you go. There we go. Exactly.
A little backhanded.
Yeah.
Almost.
There you go. Exactly. So yeah, Sam Fuller. I mean, very
What a character.
What a character. I mean, there's an amazing interview on this Blu-ray. That's him, I think, in 1989, just talking about this movie, and it's like, I don't know, 40% comprehensible. You know, like it's like, but
Right.
he's fascinating because
He's so fucking cool. He's so grizzled and amazing.
Oh yeah, I mean, of course, I'm not trying to take anything away from the guy, but he's amazing, and he's such a huge character. And even like Marty Scorsese has talked about how, like, his films are, quote, blunt, pulpy, and crude, and they are reflections of the man's own temperament. Which I think is exactly. I mean, his movies feel like the guy. They look and feel and probably smell like the guy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. That gravelly and the cigars and the whiskey.
Yeah.
Sorry, Marcus.
And it's sort of just the language, like being really fixated on getting the right words, that match the underworld kind of characters. And that's sort of the way that he speaks to.
The authenticity, yeah.
The slang.
The authenticity.
Right.
Yeah.
There's so many interviews of him out there. I mean, he was so like loved in his life, which is great.
Yes.
So we get a chance to kind of peek into his brain. And then, he had big fans like Jarmusch and Scorsese, like you mentioned, which I'm sure we'll get into more in depth in this episode.
Sure.
Tarantino, of course, they all seem to just like really worship the guy.
Right. The French New Wave, too.
The French New Wave. Yeah. I mean, I would say like Bresson was probably like really when he wrote Pickpocket.
Because it's like hanging out with a fucking street creature, it's really cool.
Yeah.
And he would like shoot a gun instead of saying action and shit. It's like,
it's like real deal shit. Yeah.
A lot of people, there's a certain type of filmmaker that aspires to that, right? Like to be the manly, bring guns to sets, live the lifestyle that you portray, Well,
they don't make them like that anymore.
No, God, no. You think a Damien Chazelle is bringing his semi-automatic on set?
Gun to set.
But no, just it's so
whenever
funny.
they do, it's a problem these days.
Yeah, I know. God, of course, right.
I mean, thank God.
Yeah, right. But what's interesting about like these characters like Sam Fuller and Nicholas Ray, who I'm sure we're going to get into in this series.
Yeah.
That we're doing, but these guys, these are the interesting voices, of film, but pre French New Wave, pre sort of American, 70s revolution time period. These are the guys that paved the way for their gritty realism, their raw sort of violence, their sort of like, punching you in the face with their movies, so to speak, And
they live the gimmick,
Right.
It's a little bit like what like Abel Ferrara would be later on,
Yeah.
Like he's maybe the only other example. Like,
yes.
like a modern day example.
Probably the last.
Gritty New York heroin addict and all that shit.
The last guy who would bring a gun to set, probably.
Yeah, for sure.
Now it's all the rich kids that like bring those guys in.
Exactly. To give them cred. Stolen valor.
Stolen valor.
100.
Cultural vampire.
Yep.
Totally.
Well, exactly.
It can be hard to like get. I mean, for someone like I remember not really understanding the Sam Fuller thing when I was younger, getting into movies. Because it's hard when you grow up in a world of like Scorsese and stuff to like look at a Sam Fuller movie from the 50s and kind of get like, what's the big deal? So I think but when you understand it in the context of like, he was sort of bringing that underworld and that bluntness and like in pursuit of a certain type of realism and
authenticity,
truth, and that he inspired those guys. It really helps kind of frame like his importance in the lineage of film. Otherwise, I didn't really get it at first when I was younger.
Because it's contextual. It's like you have to look at him in the context of the time that he was creating that.
Right.
He was a renegade in that way.
Totally.
We're so used to that now, but looking back,
I know
it was kind of cutting edge what he was doing.
Right. That it probably didn't help that my first Sam Fuller film was White Dog.
Right. Yeah.
Oh man, what a film! Holy crap! Yeah, crazy movie. But I think also something that we would take for granted, nowadays, not sort of fully immersing ourselves in the time period in which he's making these movies. But it's like to make a film like this one, Pick Up on South Street, where your main characters is like a petty pickpocket, a sort of like low life stool pigeon tramp. Those are your heroes. That's something that. Going into the 60s, going into the 70s is something that we'd see tons of those movies. Those are some of our favorite movies.
I mean, Straight Time,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's like
you contrast it with what was going on in Hollywood at the time.
I know.
Movies that Hollywood was producing, right?
And the glamour. Right,
the glitz and the glamour of like who the main characters in a normal Hollywood movie. Compared with his choices.
Even in terms of like gangsters or criminals, it was like, in the 30s with James Cagney, it was much more kind of like the nightclub gangsters and
or the Capone versus the small time guys.
Not the small time.
This is the gritty realism
Trash.
of real street people.
Street
people who really are everyday folks living
Yep.
on the streets. You know, they're not gangsters in
Yep.
in suits shooting up clubs with Dick Tracy guns and stuff.
No, this is low life core, which I think is what's really cool about it. But I think that comes from a very real place with Sam, not because he himself was like that, but because he grew up observing it. Okay, what do I mean by that? Sam Fuller, he grew up in Worcester, Mass, and moved to New York City, where he immersed himself in tabloid journalism at a very young age. I think by
He was
the
a
age,
teenager.
I think I read this. By age 12, he was a copy boy. Could you imagine this?
That's so
By
fucking
12 years old. That's 1 year older than your cousin, Raim, your little cousin. Was a copy boy in the New York Evening Journal's filing room. By 17, he was the youngest crime reporter at the rival New York Evening Graphic. So he was involved in reporting on murders, riots, executions, scandals, and the sort of general underbelly of society. And these, I'm sure the shit that he saw.
It doesn't get grittier than the Bowery in the
Whatever.
20s, year on the
20s,
Bowery.
I guess.
20s, 30s,
Yeah. So like those experiences left an indelible imprint on him and shaped his sensibilities and the types of, the stories he would tell, and that sort of thing. And not only that, but because he came from this like hardcore journalism background, he, understood the sort of like craft of, writing pulp stories, if you will, with that sort of, opening punch headline, powerful opening, having a hook, and sort of the cinematic equivalent of having like a splashy headline or something like that, So like, to have impact in his work.
He said one of his early like editors or something said to him like, you're going to go out and interview these people who have had a crime perpetrated on them, and they're going to tell you this happened, that happened. And he said, don't believe them, have like compassion for what happened. But like you're in pursuit of the truth, so you can't be swayed that this happened the way that they're saying that it did.
Wow.
So he was always sort of like, that's what set him off in pursuit of this like truth, which is what we see like throughout his work, as he's really trying to get to like, some sort of truth, even if it is a little bit hard to put your finger on.
Interesting.
Yeah, and also the kind of representing the truth of the outcast. You have like the stereotype of what someone like that might be, and then he's kind of exploring the multi-layers and the hypocrisies and the people you think are the good guys are always the good guys, and there's humanity in a lot of different people's way of life, even if they're not viewed that way by greater society.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, so then he goes and goes to Hollywood after writing some pulp novels and doing that, and he sells his first screenplay in 1936, which is a musical comedy called Hats Off. That's got to be interesting. And then he sort of embarked on his on his rest of his career and became very prolific in Hollywood as a screenwriter first, and then obviously as a director. But let's set the stage for this movie because it's very interesting. He had a huge hit film a few years prior to this. Steel Helmet was critically and box office a big smash. So he was sort of a hot name director.
He was like a World War II like guy. He was like in his 30s.
That's right.
And he enlisted in the army and went to World War II. He was at Normandy. Yeah. He was in North Africa, and he was at the concentration camps.
That's
like
right.
with a camera filming the stuff. So he was very in touch with like the brutality of the world and humanity.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. We talked
another
about
one
that.
of these guys, that's what's so amazing that we're realizing about covering this era. It's like these fucking people are just incredible, like what they've seen. And
I know.
What the knowledge and wisdom.
I know. It's kind of like
the trauma.
I know.
And then they're putting it into these incredible movies, and it's awesome.
It's like people criticize Werner Herzog's sort of like what his film school is. I don't know if you guys remember that, but he had this like film school where you could enroll, and I think it was just he would take you on this like all it was like you'd go on this like miserable hike through like the Andes or something, or whatever, and it was like to break you down physically and suffering and experiencing life, and this is how the only thing that'll lead you to actually making real films, and it's like it's true, it's fucking true,
right? Unlike the NYU. Silver spoon kids.
Exactly.
No, but I mean, there's something to be said. You fucking storm the beach at Normandy.
Yeah.
Right.
You got a
right.
story to tell for sure, and you know the real shit. You know the author. You're authentic as hell. You know.
And I think also just super quick too.
Yeah.
Like what's so interesting is the idea of the concept of moral ambiguity is something I feel like a lot of these guys came back to explore in the movies because they saw the brutality of violence. They saw how destructive that was.
Right.
How sort of the phoniness of nationalism in any form, whether it was, German nationalism, American nationalism, and just the pure brutality of war and violence is what they came away with.
That's right on the money. I mean, Sam Fuller would go on the record, even though his films always had this tinge of like gritty, real, intense brutality, violence. He hated violence. Yeah. But, he accepted the fact that violence is a part of humanity, and to not show it is being disingenuous to the experience. So, that's interesting. Even though he's a gun-wielding maniac on set, at his heart and his soul, he's very passive in that way, which is interesting. Kind of creates this interesting dichotomy of the guy himself. But if we may, we should start getting into the stage of setting the stage for this movie, because we teased it at the end of last week's episode. But this is also covering an interesting chapter in American history, too, that it coincides with, because we're now getting into McCarthyism here, right, Randy? Yeah. This is what's happening in the country?
And I'm really, really, really glad we're doing this film, because I think it would be remiss, obviously, not to talk about the historical context of the 1950s. I mean, from 1950 until 1954, that was such a potent time in America during the Red Scare, right?
Yep.
The communist fear, hysteria that was taking over America. Joe McCarthy, a little known senator from Wisconsin in 1950, had claimed that he had said, I found, I think it was like 250 card carrying communists in the State Department, and I'm going to root them out.
Right.
And so as people probably know, there was these insane right-wing witch hunts that were started within the government. These different kinds of committees, panels were set up. The House Un-American Committee, which was, it was targeting anyone they thought was un-American, unpatriotic, and it was
specifically
journalists, writers in Hollywood. It was actors, it was directors, it was scientists, it was academics, it was going after people who were organizing in left-wing politics. It was it swept the nation, and this is like Cold War, all those anxieties about the Soviets and
right, and not just on like the House floor either. There's like a kind of conspiracy with like industry. And like bureaucrats and media, news media to like kind of get in on it too, and they're all sort of like conspiring in ways to
exactly, and
accuse people without any proof that they were communists.
And so I think also because it was impacting Hollywood so much. I mean, they really went after these guys. And then there was the Hollywood 10, which was like the group of, writers and directors who ended up becoming blacklisted because they wouldn't give names. They wouldn't become informants. And so I think, if you were a director in that time period, you're making films, I mean, I think it's a really interesting climate to try to inject some of your feelings about that sort of patriotic hysteria that was going on. And just quickly during that time period, I wrote some notes about this. There was a bunch of anti-communist propaganda films that actually Nixon, because Nixon was a congressman, then a senator, and he rose up. Yes, he rose up the ranks in terms of getting political power because of his whole thing about, McCarthyism and going hard on this communist shit. So there was the Red Menace, My Son John, I Was a Communist for the FBI, Big Jim McLean, The Whip Hand, I Married a Communist. So, there was, in that context, the government and J. Edgar Hoover were actually talking to Hollywood and having meetings with the executives.
I know.
We need these propaganda movies, right? So it's cool to look at what Pickup on South Street was doing within the context.
Exactly. I mean, that's something that's very chilling to see, is that like the FBI is part of the development process of these movies, giving notes, looking at scripts before they're being produced and saying, well, he can't say that, and maybe you got to amp up this more and do that more. So they're really getting involved in the propaganda that's going on during this whole time.
And the lavender scare was happening. There was anti-Semitism happening. There
Right.
was,
It's all under the guise of like national security.
Yes.
Too, right.
Yeah,
like these people are
Sounds a
putting
little
us
familiar.
all at risk. Right.
We're rooting out,
Right.
all these subversives and but one more quick thing also, the deviants. 1953, which is the year this movie came out, is the the famous Roy Cohen story. Roy Cohen was Joe McCarthy's lawyer, and 23 years old at the time, hugely involved in all this shit. He helped get Ethel and Julius Rosenberg convicted and executed on saying that they were Soviet spies.
Right.
1953 is when they were sent to the electric chair.
Yeah.
So this was a huge moment. I mean, there was protests. There was people on both sides freaking out. Like to have two middle-aged people
be sent to death.
Sent to death.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Under these pretenses.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a huge deal.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So this is when the movie came out. This is the climate that we're talking about.
So this
It's
is
wild. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is what it is, civil liberties pushed aside, as basically suspicion is being thrown and accusations over everywhere. People in Hollywood, you mentioned a few, the Hollywood 10, but, Dalton Trumbo, Joseph Losey, Jules Dassin, John Garfield.
Oh my God, John Garfield is so sad.
I know, John Garfield is the saddest.
Like
story.
he refused to give names, and then they've ruined his career. He couldn't.
And then he
work,
died
and
shortly
died
thereafter.
of a heart attack.
Yeah. So, and people, were sent, were deported and whatever, blacklisted.
People committed suicide.
Yep,
And stuff.
Yeah.
It's a very dark chapter in not only the nation, but also in Hollywood. And so this is very interesting because Pick Up in South Street, at first glance, you may say, okay, well, I guess the premise is, we're trying to stop this sort of, precious U.S. information getting into the wrong hands, and the cops get their man at the end of the day, of course, yeah.
How long have you known Joy was a communist agent?
I didn't know till Skip told me.
But it's a lot more complicated than that because it winds up, even though Sam Fuller made this movie under the guise of it being anti-communist propaganda, because these films were getting made routinely at this time, it in fact is actually a much more nuanced, searing criticism of the time, which is very interesting. So he sort of, in a way, is very smartly and acutely using sort of the anti-communist surface to sort of smuggle in this film under the radar as a sort of criticism of the country's moral climate at the time during all of this.
And he's exposing that hypocrisy of nationalism and American patriot and kind of the phoniness and idiocy of that in his own way.
Through the eyes of these low-life characters who don't give a fuck about any of this because they're on American soil trying to survive day by day and, getting fucked over by the systems and all that stuff, But yeah, so Sam Fuller, he hated McCarthyism, and he said he was, later said he was, was disgusted by all of it, the informing, the coercion, the ideological bullying, all that stuff. But he knew that just making an open criticism of it would get this project shut down. So he kind of had to strategically shape this movie in a way that it could kind of get under the radar. And that's what I think is so unique and special and amazing sort of about this.
And it's pretty moving. I mean, it's weird. When I first saw the movie like years ago, I don't think I understood it in the same way.
Same.
And it's weird. And then recently I was really touched by the kind of the humanity of the movie.
Exactly. Because it's not
sentimental. It's not sentimental.
It's not. And it's not about, there's no ideological core to this movie. There's no patriotism at the core of this movie. It's about ordinary people, the people who are being squeezed and used and discarded, as I mentioned. And that's what that's the emotional center of what this movie is about. It's about those people.
And Fuller said this is not a movie about communism. It's a noir thriller about marginalized people.
Exactly.
And so to make a movie about marginalized people in that way, under the guise of a Soviet spy thriller, it's very cool.
I also,
right.
Yeah, just really quick. I also read just in researching for this too. I read somewhere somebody said that its most scathing criticism of the time, or about just America in general, is that in this movie the heroes are, like America is saved from communist espionage by a petty thief and a tramp and a mercenary police, stool pigeon, like it's amazing. Like that's the fact, that they're the heroes, in this story, I think is also like just amazing,
Right.
What were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say too that I think it is based on a book, I guess, originally, even though he wrote the movie. It's based on a book, which I think is the sort of like, geopolitical angle of it is from the book. But he said he never met the guy, but he wanted to, because he said it was a good book, but there was too much yak in the courtroom. I think he had different motives than to make a communist, or a statement about that. I think that's kind of the backdrop of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
But and it's a big part of it. But I think his interest in it was to tell like this criminal underworld side of it, or get into the mind of the pickpocket.
That too.
People living on the outskirts of
margins,
society, who basically are. I mean, we should get a bit into the movie too.
We will.
Because,
it kind of colors that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I want to talk about it in relation to, I think, to some.
Okay. Two quick things, but just to put a bow on all of this before we get into the film itself, is I think one, Marcus, you mentioned he was a war, hero. He was a Purple Heart recipient. And he helped, liberate that concentration camp Falkenau. That's another element that I think made him a little more untouchable in terms of, this project being made during this time. It's like they sort of looked at him as a very pro-American, sort of probably conservative guy. And so they didn't think that he'd have a bone to pick with any of this because he seems on the outside like a very sort of, patriotic American, which I'm sure he is, but of which you can be. Those things aren't one or the other. You can still be critical, obviously, and I think that that's something that they were surprised by. And the last thing that's interesting is the reaction to this movie, because Joe McCarthy himself praised the movie. So I mean, this kind of I know.
But Hoover hated it.
I know. That's the weird thing. Yeah.
Hoover hated it because what he didn't like was the America that Fuller was showing was not the clean, squeaky clean, wholesome, drinking whole milk and the 2 cars in the garage, perfect, conformity of 50s America. It was the America kind of, honestly, the real America
falling
of
apart.
People really struggling under the weight of capitalism and doing really extreme things in order to survive. So it was like in America at that time, they really were trying to put those images out of that squeaky clean, wholesomeness. And this was not showing that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of very interesting little biting lines of dialogue that he puts in there that underline what you're saying. We'll call it out once we get there. But I think Hoover also didn't like that they didn't specifically characterize communism as evil. It was kind of a little nebulous in terms of how it's portrayed in the film. But McCarthy saw it and felt that it justified everything he was putting out there.
It's just interesting because the American way of life thing, like the concept that like what we're trying to save is so pure and virtuous and beautiful and superior. That's why we need to go this hard in prosecuting people and condemning people. And if the conceit, if that initial conceit is not true, that we have something pure to save, then that destroys the validity of their mission, basically.
Yeah.
So when you show a representation of something that is very flawed, it's putting cracks in their crusade, basically.
Yeah. And go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, he did say like that. But Fuller said that the fascists and the communists both hated it.
The French. I know specifically.
Too. Right.
Well,
and the
French didn't like it, and they actually retitled the film, and they also redubbed the film to not be about this sort of communism angle. They made it about drugs in the dubbing, which is amazing. They just changed the entire meaning of the film.
Well, okay, one more quick thing. Sorry.
Yep.
So there was a microfilm huge scandal that happened.
Yes.
I won't go way into this, but
I heard about that.
Put it in it was called the Pumpkin Papers.
Yeah.
And this is actually what brought Nixon into like the foreground in terms of his like ambition with this stuff.
Yep.
And it was referenced in North by Northwest too at the end. Cary Grant says to Eva Marie Saint, like, "Oh, are you holding the pumpkin there?"
I see you've got the pumpkin.
Yes.
And so it was like this whole scandal about like a Soviet spy that they had uncovered, and he had microfilm. So this was part of like in the public consciousness. So it was, I think this is also why McCarthy liked it, because it was kind of pulling from the mythology of communism.
Right.
You know, it's like building on the canon of that mythology.
Right. So, and just a little quote from the man himself as a transition here to go into the film. He said, quote, Sam Fuller, "Sure, there were communists who believed fervently in Marx and Lenin, but there were also crumbs like Joey," the guy we'll talk about in this film shortly, who's kind of the guy trying to, basically flip the U.S. secrets for money. There were also crumbs like Joey who'd go to work for any ism if there was a payoff. People living on the edge of society don't give a damn about politics. I wanted my film to be told through the eyes of the powerless. Cold War paranoia? Hell, these crooks were more interested in just getting by. Love that. So,
and that goes for everybody. In this capitalist society, that's why McCarthyism happened. It was about power and ambition. In the same way, on the streets, it's about eating and getting by,
hustling,
because you have to look out for yourself. So it's like whatever level of society we're on, the American individualism is that's what it's sort of teaching us, that look after your own ass, sort of.
Right. So let's get into it. Pick Up on South Street opens with a great little scene here. I mean, one of the best. Great visual storytelling. Great, sort of wordless, pure cinema scene here as we see push in on Candy as the FBI agent Zara is looking at her. So we know that this woman is of some importance. She's being watched on the subway. And then we see Richard Widmark kind of enter in, and he sort of then puts his newspaper over her bag and then starts to basically, expertly takes a wallet out of her purse. Obviously, it's hard to not think about, we mentioned it earlier, Robert Bresson's Pickpocket. It does feel a lot like the scenes in that film, where it's sort of portrayed with these, just very purely visual close-ups, feeling, Marcus, cover your ears, oddly sexual.
Well, the close-ups are kind of sexual, because they're like...
That's what I mean.
Out of context, and it's like her face.
And rummaging in bags.
The hands in the pockets.
Yeah, right, exactly. Rummaging in pockets and bags. And what we come to understand is, he steals the wallet from her purse, but these FBI guys are also trailing Candy, and they're watching over her and probably going to pick her up. But instead, our man, Richard Widmark, gets away with the wallet, which he doesn't know what's in it yet. But it's a great scene. I mean, just super visual, very cool. Feels very
New
authentic.
York City, subway.
I know.
Very much. The critic that's on the Criterion special features, which I really love her. She's cool.
Yeah.
But she was talking about how it's actually super authentic if you're from New York. The way the extras are like sort of leaning against the thing. And they're
just
like
beaten down.
And like that's like me every day
I know.
on the subway.
I know.
So it's very realistic. It's
the
like
suffering of subway
hot,
riders.
There's people barging into you. And so that... And it's all through imagery. It's like similar to a Hitchcock thing where it's very much imagery driven.
Totally.
Yeah.
Very much so.
It seems like the crew is probably outside with boards and stuff, making the car like lean and things like that.
Yeah, it's completely constructed, which is amazing. This is all mostly done in Los Angeles and on a studio and on the back lots and so on and so forth. It's a couple obviously pickup shots, no pun intended, but in New York and all that stuff, which is very cool. But anyway, Yep.
I was gonna say like the way that like you see his like fingers and like he's very agile and elegant, and Fuller was saying that he looked at pickpockets like they were artists, not criminals.
Exactly.
And it's interesting. And he even says later, the character, like I've never shot a gun, or I don't carry a gun.
No weapon.
Of course not. I never used a gun in my life.
Right.
And like there was something about him, like he is this kind of like I don't know,
he's got a
elegant
gift.
creature who has a gift. Yeah.
He did a lot of research, and like Fuller met with the chief detective of pickpockets for New York City, and like looked at all these mugshots and tried to really get into their characters. But he said, like, when you look at a pickpocket, they're not a killer.
Nope.
They're not muggers.
Yeah.
His hand is everything. So his hand is nice and
the hand is
manicured.
It's everything.
He really cares
Very
for his hands.
manicured,
And that's later on. She says he's got soft hands.
I know. That's right. Yeah.
You got fingers like an artist. Soft and smooth.
In my business, I gotta keep them that way.
Yeah.
All right, we'll keep it moving here. So
Okay.
she goes to Joey, who we find out is her ex, and he's the guy that's sort of, having her carry around this wallet. She basically says, I can't find it. I think I got pickpocketed. And then, and she's like, tough luck. And he's like, no, this is really important. It's very serious. And he sort of explains it as this idea that it's like, what was in there was like a patent for a chemical that like some other company is going to steal from us. He doesn't, of course, reveal to her what its true intentions are. But we know this because our FBI guy goes to Tiger, who is sort of the head of the pickpocket division in the police department, and he tells him that he spotted a pickpocket take this very sensitive government-related information. And so now we're sort of realizing this is something very important that was stolen. And they need to figure out who this pickpocket is so they can track him down and find it. But they need the help of somebody. Now, this is the MVP of the movie here, guys, because they ask Mo. There's one character who can help us out. Who's Mo? And in walks Thelma Ritter, of course, legendary. She's in Rear Window. Of course, you might know her from. But
All About Eve.
All About Eve, of course. She walks in sort of as this frumpier older woman with a knitted flower hat and a very squeaky, Brooklyn accent. And
Professional scene stealer.
Yes.
Oh, seriously.
Totally. And
Incredible.
she's just one of the all-time great supporting character actors of all time. And she walks in and she's the stool pigeon. She sells out all these pickpockets for a price. And I do love how Sam Fuller injects that authenticity of like informants in that way.
The theme of informers. It's like so prescient without saying what it's about.
Without saying it, true.
Similar to On the Waterfront, but that's a whole other topic.
Totally. But with here recognizing that there's a craft in that, there's a code of ethics.
Yes.
As that relates, because we find out that like our pickpocket friend isn't even mad being sold out because he knows that's part of the game and that's her hustle. And she's got to eat too. So I'm not going to knock her hustle, which I love.
It's like a street rules.
Yeah.
Codes
they
of
live
ethics.
by their own codes.
I love it. I love
that.
That
Are outside of the norms of society.
Only somebody who saw that firsthand would know about that and put it in
And
the
also
movie.
what's cool about it is he was saying from being on the inside as a journalist, like he saw how much the cops and even the FBI relied on informants. Like this whole myth of like a Sherlock Holmes or these great detectives. He was like, that didn't really exist.
I think Hoover was mad about that too. Like the fact that an FBI agent was present during when there's a stool pigeon there, selling
like,
out information for $50.
They weren't these geniuses. Like a lot of times that's how they solved all these crimes by people on the street that they'd pay for money. And so he was basically saying like, dude, you're all fucking corrupt. Don't pretend that you're this noble person.
So they're looking for information. Can she identify this pickpocket? Of course, we learned some little street vernacular. The pickpockets are called cannons. I know a few live cannons. And but then she starts talking about this gives her character so much fucking weight because this could just be something that's not even included in the script. But of course, Fuller's brilliance here gives her this motivation, which is the reason she's hustling. And now this is like both darkly comic and also very sad.
Incredibly sad.
Crushingly sad. Because she's basically hustling to be able to save up money for her own grave, to have a nice funeral.
I got almost enough to buy the stone and the plot.
If you lost that kitty, it's Potter's Field.
To not be buried in Potter's Field.
Which is Hart Island in New York.
Yeah, should we explain for the non-New Yorkers?
Oh man, I had notes about this, but it's so, during COVID, I got really obsessed with this in a super disturbing way. It's so sad. But it's, to this day, that's where people go. And
it's like over 1 million people there, right?
Yeah.
1 million people kind of buried there.
The nameless and the homeless and the,
It came back into the news because during COVID, when they didn't know where to put people that didn't have room, they were putting them in Hart Island. And a lot of like people who died of AIDS were sent there, indigent, homeless people, people like all, there's a lot of, racial undertones of people that were sent there that didn't,
And it's a mass grave. It's like just stacks of coffins and stuff.
And up until
really
recently, you couldn't go there. So it was this kind of, I mean, it's, and so the idea that like, I mean, it's such, it's disturbing, almost like a symbol of like, you end up there. No one gives a shit about you. Your life meant nothing because you didn't have money and status, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's like such a marker of how we care about people.
Because she says,
Look, Tiger, if I was to be buried in Potter's Field, it'd just about kill me.
so then we understand that this is what her goal is to be she's working for her own death in dignity, which
dignity
is like
dignity and death because she
holy
couldn't
shit.
have dignity in her life,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And so,
So she's asking the cops a few questions, or the FBI agent, like, what did you see? What was the guy's technique? And she's able to identify him pretty much straight away. She gives up, long story short, that it's Skip McCoy, of course, who did it. And then now we see Skip's home, which is on the South Street Seaport and is a shack that is built out on a little dock, which looks like something that like would be in the Gangs of New York period, but is somehow here. Maybe shit was like that back then. I don't know. But and he's got like basically this ice box, he's got this like box with beers in it that he lowers into the East River. And that's where he's storing his loot essentially, which is great. It's a very impractical living situation. I don't know what the fuck he does in the winter. Maybe he goes somewhere else.
Well, there's a little bit of fantastical nature to some, or like, it's not quite realism what he captures, but it's a stylized realism.
Sure. So he examines the film that he took, and he realizes it's a strip of film. There's some importance with that. But the cops quickly come to the door, and they say, "Hey, Tiger wants to see you. Get over here." So now we get Skip face to face with his sort of arch nemesis at the police, the guy who's put him away, 3 separate times on 3 different raps, and basically, if he gets sentenced one more time, he's probably gone for good. But Skip emphatically denies that he pickpocketed the woman's purse. They even say like, hey, the FBI guy comes in and says, hey, we'll drop the charges. We just need this film because it's a huge, national crisis if you don't. And he even says at him, and this is the big line from the film, he says,
You refuse to cooperate, you'll be as guilty as the traitors that gave Stalin the ABA.
And that's the big line, of course, when Skip says,
Are you waving a flag at me?
Are you waving a flag at me?
yeah.
Which that's my favorite line.
It's
just so
great.
incredible because he's like, fuck off, where do you
What
get
do I
off?
care?
And that's the thing. It's like with people like in that world, they're saying like, well, what has America done for me?
Exactly.
Like America doesn't respect me. I was born into these circumstances. Why the fuck would I fight for, what are these ideals that
You guys
that
have
I'm
never
supposed
helped me. Yeah.
Yeah. What I'm supposed to stick up for this? you
Yeah.
know?
Right.
So anyway, I think
his
that's pretty
character
cool.
really highlights that too, because he's the only one that doesn't draw that line, because Mo talks about how, there's a line that you can't cross. She's got some sort of like, she's bought into the national security concern on some level.
We'll get to that for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Anyway, but the other characters too don't seem to have the same sort of like not caring about anything but himself attitude.
Yeah.
that
Well, I
Skip
think
does.
also it's like he's just pointing out the hypocrisy. Because
Exactly.
he's seen it all. He's like,
Yeah.
I don't believe
He goes-
in the validity of any of this.
Yeah. The FBI guy goes, do you know what treason means? And he goes, who cares?
Do you know what treason means?
Who cares?
Answer the man!
Which is
Right.
amazing
Right. I
dialogue.
think he's a bit of a
Yeah.
drunk and like self-centered and like he's violent and self-interested too.
Yeah.
I don't know how much he's like being like, he's not critiquing society to me. I think he's just completely self-involved.
Oh, that too. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think he is because he has to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like he is literally living on the streets, like Mo. They're they have to. They're hustling to live, and we don't know
right.
his backstory either. Like how he ended up.
He literally lives on the margins of New York City.
Right.
He's not even in New York City. He's on this shack
Yeah.
adjacent to New York
on
City.
the water.
He's on the
So
waterfront.
I think it's hard to be patriotic. I think when like you that you're living.
It
to
doesn't
hustle.
apply to
It doesn't
him.
apply.
That's
You're
what I mean.
living-
Yeah.
right,
Yeah. It's
yeah.
like, what?
You're
Isn't
living on
what?
the
Who cares?
fringes of society.
Yeah.
You're like, are you fucking kidding me?
And I know you took an oath to put me away for life. Well, you're trying awful hard with all this patriotic eyewash.
So, all right, we got to keep this going here. So, so Skip goes to, so he's like, nope, I'm not helping you. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm out of here. But he goes to the library, checks out the microfiche, and realizes, okay, this is something serious here. Then, meanwhile, Jean's character, Candy, is trying to locate, she's got to find the pickpocket guy. So she goes to meet this character. I love this guy, Lightning Louie. What a great little scene of this character as some low life type guy who's munching on chow mein and dribbling all over his mouth and shit. Just a great little textural ad there. But essentially, Candy finds Mo. That's where she gets Mo's contact, is from Lightning Louie. And this is a great scene here because we see where Mo, lives. And, and she, of course, sells out Skip and gives Skip's home address to Candy. And that's how Candy gets to Skip's location. And this is an insane scene. She's searching around inside of Skip's little shack with a flashlight, and Skip comes up to the shack and sees that, assumes it's like, somebody that's up to no good, goes in there, punches whoever it is. So punches Candy square in the face.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this is where the gritty Sam Fuller shit starts to come out of the movie, because he punches her in the face, not knowing, of course, it was a woman when he was doing it, but rifles through her purse, sees there's a tie inside, and of course Mo is a tie salesman. That's what she's hustling on the street as well. So he knows Mo sold her out. But he kind of chuckles at that. And then he takes one of his beers out of the East River, takes a swig of the beer, and then pours the beer on Candy's face, and then it's like insane. She stands up demanding that she wants her wallet and all this stuff. And then there's like this scene where he sort of seduces her in kind of a con man-ish sort of way, and they kiss. And it's a great shot by Fuller where he's got the hook in the foreground. He loves shooting through objects, which is really cool. And that hook is in the foreground in that moment. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so after denying it for so long, he basically admits to her in a sort of way that he does have the film, but he wants her to report it back to the person who's looking for it, because obviously he's angling for a big score here. So, but Tiger notices that Candy's leaving the shack. So, wow, the girl's going to visit him now. And he goes back to Skip to basically say, okay, we're going to wipe your slate clean if you just come clean. But of course, Skip laughs in his face. And so now there's sort of this back and forth that we get here where Candy goes back to Joey to say, well, the guy wants money. And then Joey's like, well, here's $500, which is not going to get the job done. And because she goes back to Skip and tries to offer him that, and things get pretty violent, right? I mean, he really smacks her around. And this is when Skip basically says to Candy, like, I know what you commies, are all about. Like,
So you're a red. Who cares? Your money's as good as anybody else's.
I don't care if you guys are commie bastards. I just want my money. And she's like, I'm a commie? Because she didn't know that this was like sort of communist, that they were looking for this materials. This is a big revelation to her.
This is the scene where he's really smacking her around in the apartment, right?
Yeah.
So this movie feels very Scorsese, I think, like on lots of levels. With the subject matter, the attempt at getting like an accurate kind of like lingo, argot, whatever for the for the period, for these low life guys, whatever.
Like a Mean Streets.
And the camera moves, there's some very that Scorsese camera move where like someone does a line and then they pushes in on them. Yeah. I saw like at least 3 of those in this movie.
Love those.
True.
I love those.
But the reason I'm bringing him up in this scene is he actually like talks about this scene, Scorsese. And he says, he was shocked at the primal force of how these people were behaving, when they're fighting, when he's like smacking her around in the room.
Yeah.
He says the ferocity of the 2 people in the frame and the way the camera was restrained made it so much more disturbing.
Yeah.
The camera isn't moving in the fight scene, and that's what really, was the
There's a realism there that you're not used to seeing.
I know.
Right.
True.
When he smashes her head against the furniture.
And
that's later on.
That is like documentary,
Yeah, it's very real. But
that's later on. That's later on.
Okay.
So essentially, he says, "Come back with $25,000. That's my price."
Now tell your old lady I'm shaking down you reds for 25 grand. Get going.
She goes back to Joe, and now this is a great scene where she's basically saying in front of Joey and, unbeknownst to her, his commie compadres, is like, they think we're communists. And then like you just see the sinister guys looking there, and the one guy who's in the chair, and he's like smoking a cigar or something, and he's like, security isn't interested in all this confusion.
Security isn't interested in all this confusion.
some weird fucking what the fuck does that mean? Shit. But essentially, his commie guys say like, we need Joe, we need you to go in there and handle this, not her.
Yeah.
It has to be handled by tomorrow. And then you see Joe pick up a gun, and then Candy pleads, don't, and gives Joe, of course, the wrong address to.
And once again, she's not going to inform. Which is like a McCarthyism reference.
Right.
But also, I think what's interesting too, like even with that circle of guys with Joey, like what a critic had pointed out the fact that like they're never talking about communism. They're not talking about ideology. Once again, it's just about the score.
That's
like
right.
once again, every character in this movie, it's about scoring. It's not about this greater, sense. Of an
ideology or whatever. Yeah.
She's such an innocent too. Like she doesn't like understand. She's like, why would they say that I'm a red?
But to start calling us commies.
Sit down.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she is falling for Skip's, sort of no nonsense way about him, and she's fascinated by this guy, and she's sort of falling.
And there's
for
also
him.
the implication that she used to be a prostitute, so
very much so.
She's also someone. It's like that's the thing. What's interesting, like they don't talk about their backstories, and you don't. And when Skip gets mad when she says like,
How'd you get to be a pickpocket?
How did I get to be a pickpocket?
That even sounds degrading to him,
right?
Because it's like you don't know me, you don't know my life. Like
exactly.
I'm like, and when the cop calls him a 3-time loser, it's like those things are really hurtful.
When
it's like,
she asks him that, doesn't he say like, "Well, how long have you been doing what you're doing?"
Exactly.
How'd you get to be what you are? Things happen, that's all.
Yeah.
And so it's all of a sudden this thing of like they can only really trust each other because they're all living on the fringes, but at the same time, it's like don't judge me.
Yeah,
for what
I think
I'm
it's when like Joe says to Candy, like when you can find the pickpocket. You've knocked around a bit, is what he says about her.
But I don't know anything about pickpockets.
You've knocked around a lot.
So, all right, cutting a little ahead here.
we got to do Mo.
I know. I'm getting to it right now. So essentially, Mo goes to Skip and knows that some bad people are after him, warns him, but also says, "Hey, that Candy kid, she really loves you." But you can tell at the end of that scene that something's off with her. And Skip looks at her and says, "You look tired, Mo. You better go home." And so then we see this really kind of sad scene where she's trying to peddle her, her ties on the street.
It's very sad, that moment.
Yeah, it's just a quick little vignette moment there. And then, this is the big scene. She walks back into her apartment. She's exhausted. She's breathing heavy. She puts on this kind of faux French, ballad, sort of 78. And it's a really nice long shot with the music and we're holding on her. And you
can just tell she's just utterly exhausted from just like the everyday, the hustle, like just, her
or heart trouble. There's like even more there too. Like she's out of breath and she's like,
but living that way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every day of your life, maybe.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you're like, how much longer can I do this?
Right. And, she knows, but basically what happens is then, she looks over, there's a guy's feet on her bed, and it's, of course, Joe, and he's there, and he's trying to buy the information of where Skip is, but she won't sell it to him because she knows this is the commie guy, right? Of course. Yeah. So what's interesting is that he's even offering $500, but she turns it down, which is kind of amazing. And
that's where her sense of morality comes in.
Exactly. But there's a very, interesting line here that I think is definitely a criticism of the times because, Joe is like, "What do you know?" And he goes, "I know you commies are looking for some film that don't belong to you." And then he asks, "Well, what else do you know? You just bought
what
yourself."
What do you know about communists?
Yeah. And she goes, "What do I know?"
I know one thing. I just don't like them.
And that in itself, that says it all. That was the attitude. People didn't know what communism was. It was just this
bad,
faceless evil.
Yeah, right.
But it was a boogeyman.
Different. Everything, that's how it used to be, and it's all different.
I know, yeah. In ways.
But that's it. That was kind of the idea. Well, I mean, you see it today too,
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. It's like, I don't know what it is, but I don't like it.
I don't know what it is, but I don't like it.
I don't like it. Bad Bunny at the Super Bowl. I don't like
this
it.
shit guy. I don't want to bring up, but
Yeah.
this shit recently, people that commie shit's been floating around everywhere.
I know.
Sure.
I know.
I mean, on the cover of the New York Post, Mamdani wearing like a red communist. That was insane.
Yeah, he's
so it's just like, there's so many echoes of that.
I know, it's so
You
funny.
don't quite know what it is, and you can't specifically explain it, but it's the boogeyman. Yeah,
it is. I mean, I can see why people were upset that pro-communist whatever were upset by this movie, because it's like the people that steal and
I know.
rat each other out and stuff, but they have to draw the line at commies.
Right. All right, let's keep it going. So this scene is incredible. She starts to basically say, you've seen an old clock running down. I have to go on making a living so I can die, and she just, and then she realizes she's about to get clipped. And she says, well, I guess I won't be getting a fancy funeral after all. And she's like,
You'd be doing me a big favor if you'd blow my head off.
and it's almost like an assisted suicide. Like it's just such a brutal, dark,
It's
depressing
such a dark
scene.
scene. It
But
really
such an
is.
incredible moment for Thelma Ritter. Like it's the fucking Samuel Fuller scene of all scenes, It's
Yeah.
fantastic. It's
Her
incredible.
performance is incredible, and that moment when the camera leaves her and goes over to the phonograph, and then you hear the shot of the gunshot, and it's such a. I mean,
It's really
Having
elegant.
it the choice to have it happen off screen makes it this really sort of emotional gut punch.
Totally.
Yeah. It's very
So-
real, that whole section.
And then, of course, Skip gets a little bit of, heroicism here. Maybe the only little shred of it in the film is when, even though it's not practical that they would have her like body all sorted without investigating the murder and have her in a casket already. But, regardless, Skip does the noble thing of actually knowing what her wish is. He saves her body from Potter's Field by basically taking possession of her casket, which is really, to give her
Beautiful scene.
that proper burial. It's a great moment.
And that shows too that like it's about the loyalty, the code of honor that they've developed. That's completely outside of the system.
Yeah.
And about saving America, it's really about that loyalty, interpersonal loyalty with people that you trust when you really can't trust anybody.
Yeah.
He doesn't trust anybody, but he's known Mo since he was a little kid, and he wants to give her that dignity.
Yeah.
So let's wrap this up here. So basically, Candy goes back to Skip's and winds up whacking him over the head, taking the film and bringing it to the police in an effort to basically save him from this inevitable end that he'll have, because she does, of course, like him. But the police have a plan. Like, no, I want you, Candy, to take this film and give it back to Joey, and then we'll capture him in the moment and take him and yada yada yada. So she's now involved in that. We cut back to her now in this scene where she's in the bathtub, and here comes Joey. And this is when he looks, and she says, I got the film, here it is, but it's missing a frame because, of course, Skip has got to always hold on to a piece to have an upper edge on the whole situation. But she won't, but then he basically says, now, where is Skip? You got to tell me where he lives, and she won't give him up. And that's when there's a savage beating. This is when he beats her, throws her into the fucking lamp and coffee table. Crazy stunt, too,
That's what we were talking about before.
Oh, that's the scene I meant to say with Scorsese before. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. And just like, and then, of course, shoots her in the back. Like it gets even
really
more
brutal.
Brutal. I've never even seen anything like this in a movie at this time period.
And it's interesting
She's
you
like wearing
say
a
about
bathrobe
Scorsese,
too.
because
So vulnerable.
Yeah, I know. It's
it
true.
reminds me of Cape Fear when Ileana Douglas when she's in the hospital and she's bandaged up in the hospital.
Totally.
It's almost the exact same bandages.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah.
So then we get a little bit of action with the police coming in, and there's kind of a cat and mouse here where, Joey hides in the dumbwaiter, and there's some suspense there, which is cool. But after that's all resolved and Joey does get away, we learn Candy sort of has like a 50-50 chance to live. And there's this great little moment, very dramatic, super well acted and well photographed as well, where she's in the hospital bed, as you mentioned, and Skip basically comes in and she's all beat up, and he basically comes to confront her about, hey, you clubbed me and you took the film, and she's like, I'm sorry.
Because he still doesn't trust. He still
doesn't trust, but he's like, I'm sorry. She's like, I'm sorry, I spilled you spoiled your big score. But she basically realizes that the reason Skip realizes the reason she got beat up was because she would not give him up to Joey.
I wouldn't tell him where you live.
Yeah.
And so then she realizes, whoa, this chick is true. She was loyal to him, ride or die.
Ride or die.
And then that's Sam Fuller making a comment too of people who didn't rat their friends out like Elia Kazan did.
Exactly.
And shit like that. So
she wasn't an informant, and then you earn the respect of this guy, and so now so now we basically get
his fault anyway for clipping that one piece of the out.
Marcus, you're like, I have no sympathy with this dude.
Yeah.
But he's like been beating her, slapping her around the whole movie.
I know.
Yeah, he's very rough.
He's cut from that cloth.
There's a lot of manhandling.
There's a lot of manhandling, yeah. So now we're back on the subway, and we get this sort of nice bookend moment where we're going to kind of bring back the sort of pickpocket motif, where we see that Skip is going to pick the pocket of Joe and take the gun out of his lapel, and this works dramatically because Joe doesn't know what Skip looks like, so it really works. And what's really interesting is we caught this when we were watching it is quick little moment when you see Skip on the subway and it stops right after he's taken the gun. You see that mosaic of Third Avenue. That looks like the real New York subway.
I think they picked it.
So they must have done some New York City, because then the big fight scene is obviously on a soundstage. But that little one shot looks like that was really done in New York City.
The title that says Third Avenue, it
still looks like that
every day, and I'm like, whoa.
I think he
amazing.
did say he shot a little bit in the subway, and there's some subway just car driving by kind of stuff.
So there's something there, but the actors must had to have been in that scene, which is weird. So anyway, so then there's big bathroom brawl, in the subway bathroom. Love seeing a subway bathroom. Shout out to Maniac.
That's
another subway bathroom scene. And great little stunt, like kind of Three Stooges stunt, where his face gets smashed into the stairs as he's being.
But it looks pretty real.
It does. It looks great.
The stunts are incredible.
It's really well done. And so then he punches the guy into the subway tracks. They fight on the subway tracks, and this is kind of.
But I just want to point out too that he's fighting him not because he's like a commie,
right?
And not because of some patriotic duty.
You roughed up my woman.
It's just basically like now he's like, don't fuck with her.
Yeah.
Because he finally is like, okay, she's the real.
You
deal.
fucked up my muffin, man.
Yeah,
you fucked up muffin.
Did you miss me, Muffin?
So
don't fuck with muffin.
Don't fuck with the muffin. And then we get a great little moment at the end where. Skip basically gets to face off with Tiger one more time, saying, drop the charges against me and and but then Tiger says we're gonna get you again, just in 30 days from now you're gonna be caught again lifting something from somebody. And then of course we get the moment with Candy where she looks great again. She's all healed up and she basically looks at Tiger and says,
You want to bet?
Meaning that she's gonna work on him, right? To not be a pickpocket anymore? Is that what's being implied?
Yeah, they found each other and she's going to reform him and
right.
They're going to have a nice little life together. But, it's like, he ends up being the hero. They both kind of are heroes. They're not punished. And it's sort of, there's no morality in terms of they're criminals, I need to be punished. It's like they're not even really considered criminals.
Nobody they didn't kill anybody, right?
Yeah.
Nobody bad. They only killed bad people.
Yeah.
Right?
But they saved the day. They saved America from the communist espionage theft. Yeah. Did you miss me, Muffin? I love that. But just the movie's kind of got it all, and it really delivers. It has a lot of these kind of the different sort of machinations of the different characters as they interact with each other in different scenes, of course, but it all does build to a head, and it does have this great symmetry with a nice pickpocket scene in the beginning, resolves in the end, comes back around as a motif, and then kind of this big rollicking hard-boiled fucking punch 'em out fuck you scene at the end, which is great,
But it does end up being a movie about doing the right thing, but in a very human way. And I think that's what's so cool. It's not this big patriotic.
I know.
It's about humanity.
It's not dated. It doesn't have a dated
It's the dignity of Mo and bearing her with dignity.
Yes.
The dignity of not ratting your friends out and
yes.
having loyalty and knowing what's right by your own code of ethics.
Wow.
So it's I think in the way, that's why it's so touching.
It's an ethical film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I cried about it a little bit today, actually.
You did?
Wow. Yeah, I did.
Wow. I did not think that was going to happen. All right, everybody. Wow, that clock was a quick clock.
That was brutal.
That was
the answer. If someone asks you, how's the whip? It's still cracking. Right?
Yeah, right. That's it.
Hello, Tiger. How's the whip? Still cracking, huh?
Oh yeah, how's the whip, Marcus? Still cracking?
Still cracking.
That's so good, man. Fuck. Would you guys go back to pick up on South Street Times if there was like a time machine?
To the 50s?
Would you?
The 50s is a fucked up time.
Living on the water.
Fucked up time. I would live on the shack. If I could be him, I would. If I could live as Skip, I would go back.
You would Skip,
but
wouldn't you?
only if I was Skip.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
think
You don't want to be Mo.
would.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's no.
All right.
That was a fucked up time, guys. 50 to 54 was a fucked up time.
Fucked up time for sure.
But also, I'd say to anyone, there's some good like documentaries. There's the Roy Cohen documentary called "Where's My Roy Cohen?" That was
It's
good.
great. Yep.
And then another one came out that same
Isn't
year.
it
That's on
Cohen?
HBO.
Is it
Cohen.
Cohen.
Yeah.
Cohen, right?
I tried to
Roy
make that
Cohen,
joke
Roy
earlier.
Cohen.
No one caught it. Okay.
Oh, I heard that. I heard that.
Okay. Yeah, Roy Cohn. Yeah. And shout out to Jeremy Strong, who was a great Roy Cohn.
Yeah.
That movie didn't get enough.
Yeah.
The Apprentice.
But it's
I
very,
liked it.
it's good.
Yeah,
it
I
was
think it's
outcompeted by Melania.
right. Yeah, serious box office.
But it's all very prescient stuff, and so some of those docs are fun.
It is.
Not fun. Interesting to watch.
Totally.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah, for further reading, I'm really happy we did this because it just was awesome to rewatch it, and then just kind of learning about the context in which this movie is born out of is so important. It's like without that, it might just feel like another noir, but it's really not. There's a lot more going on with this movie than you might think. All right, so that's it for that. I guess we should address next week. 1954. We're getting there, guys. I guess this is the first month of the series, guys. This is the first month. So the first 4 episodes we've done. Hope you guys have been liking.
A whole another month of 50.
I know.
Oh my
month and a half. But hopefully you guys have been enjoying this so far, and you've been enjoying us kind of going through the years here. I think it's going to be fun. I mean, it's only going to heat up as we keep going here.
That's true.
It really.
Yeah,
I mean, we got a lot to look forward to.
is.
We got a lot to look
There's
forward
some
to.
wild ones coming.
Yeah. But 54 is a tough year. There's a lot of interesting films. I've already seen a lot of comments about 1954. So I want to explain where we're going with this for next week because I think there's an obvious choice. And, we really heavily considered the obvious choice, okay? The obvious choice would have been Rear Window for next week. And I'd want to say, Ramey and I saw it in the theater again. What was that? 3 nights ago?
Something like
Something like that. We went to go see it again. Amazing.
It's always playing somewhere.
Oh yeah, New York. It's always playing. We went to go see it a few nights ago.
It was so fun. It was awesome.
It's so fun. It's so amazing. It's such an incredible, fun time at the movies. Looks great. Technicolor is
Beautiful.
amazing. Jimmy
Edith
Stewart's
Head.
incredible.
Costumes.
Just the set pieces, of course, are amazing. But I just had a hard time thinking about what the hell are we going to talk about with this movie? It's like I don't really want to. I just feel like that shot's cool and voyeurism. I feel like every film class I've ever taken is the voyeurism of blankety blank.
Right.
It's just it's all about voyeurism.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, I get
and
it.
we're not trying to, undersell how amazing.
No, it's amazing. It's a great movie. Go see it. It's fantastic. But I want to save Hitchcock because I want to pull the Hitchcock lever as we get later down the line. I won't say which movie yet, but there's a movie that I'm clearly very hot to trot for.
The Trouble with Harry.
No, but there's one we're gonna do a little later on. So we're gonna save Hitch. I know you might be disappointed we're not doing Rear Window, but honestly, think about what would the episode be like. I think it might be not that interesting. I hate to say, but the movie's great. So
Godzilla had the same problem.
Well, Godzilla would have been interesting. Sure. There was a lot it could have been interesting. But the one we're going to go with, because there's a lot of meat on the bones. It's a very interesting film. It's almost, as Ramey, you were saying, the antithesis of a Rear Window.
Yeah.
In a way. And I think there's a lot to talk about. Again,
And it continues the themes of this episode in a way. It's kind of like
It does.
little bit of a historical twofer.
This is a twofer. We will touch a little bit on Rear Window next week, but the film we're going to be talking about for next week is Elia Kazan, a man who was mentioned tonight
Controversial figure
for On the Waterfront. So that's what we're going to be doing next week for episode 154. Hopefully you guys are down for that. Little exploration into that. I mean, whoa. This is also film is starting to feel a little different now. You know, like movies, the naturalism is really starting to come in. We're getting away from sort of like the big glamour, big studio Hollywood sort of thing. And so
I'd say that like Sam Fuller wanted to shoot this movie pick up on location.
Yeah.
And I think what he wanted was more of what
this is
ended up being.
Sure.
That was kind of his vision. He wanted it to be on the Bowery, and he wasn't able to do that.
Sure. So this is that.
So this is kind of, you know.
And there's a lot of interesting angles with this movie.
A lot of stuff.
A lot going on. So, yeah. So, I mean, sometimes with like the chunkier classics, like it's tough to say things that haven't already been said or you guys don't already know. So, you know, I'm always reluctant. I'd rather do something that kind of has just like, you know, maybe you haven't seen On the Waterfront in a while, or maybe you've never seen it, or maybe, you know, it's worth looking at. So we're going to do that for next week. I do want to give a completely unrelated shout out to something, like just totally apropos of nothing. Marcus, you're going to like this.
Okay.
I just bought this. This is not a sponsorship. It's not a, you know, this isn't a hashtag sponsored.
Magic Spoon.
This I do actually enjoy Magic Spoon.
You love that.
I do really like Magic Spoon. All right. But no, this is this just I was just alerted to this, and so I pulled the trigger without hesitation. Okay. So it is a new documentary about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Okay.
Oh wow.
Called Chain Reactions.
Okay.
LOL. But it's called Chain Reactions. This is not the reason to buy this. I don't know if the documentary is any good. Might not be. It's got, you know, Stephen King, Patton Oswalt, whatever in it, you know. Probably not very good.
Gotta have them talking about how the movie is good, you know.
But check this out, okay? It's all about the special features. You ready for this?
Okay. Oh yeah.
Okay. Disc 2 has a 16 millimeter print scan. Another 60 millimeter barbecue edition print, a 35 millimeter grindhouse print scan, a 1984 K-Tel Australian VHS version. Disc 3 has a 1981 Wizard Video VHS version. Has a 1987
Wizard Video, nice.
I know, a 1987 bootleg Czechoslovakian VHS rip.
Oh my God.
Check this out. A 1978 Super 8 millimeter print version.
Jesus Christ.
And a 1980s Slovakian Betamax version. All on this.
Wow. Okay. Well, shout out to whoever packaged that.
I know.
That is
Incredible.
Isn't that
cool,
fucking awesome? So
All right,
just
the
wanted
next snow day, let's watch
just
the 20
wanted to hype
versions.
that up.
I think we are on the verge of people releasing like there's all these 35s of like Star Wars floating around,
Incredible.
you know, and 16s and stuff. And
Incredible.
people will be like, you know, buying them individually and be like, oh, you know, this one's like, you know, kind of like wines, you know, people will be like,
It is.
looking at these different film, you know, scans of different film prints of the same movie.
You know,
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's so amazing. I have friends, you know, who are collecting them because they drop on the internet. People will drop these like, oh, we just scanned this 35 millimeter print of, I saw Silence of the Lambs out there, like an open matte 35 millimeter of Silence of the Lambs, and it looks fucking amazing.
It can elevate a movie like
Absolutely.
Jurassic, like we were like, you know, tweaking on Jurassic Park 35 millimeter, you know, and it was like, it makes it look like a Canon video, Canon films or something.
Wow,
somebody
that's so
posted, maybe, I think I actually used it for the episode, if I remember correctly, but when we did The Matrix for an episode way back,
I remember you did that. Yeah.
then I found a 35 millimeter, like grimy 35 millimeter print of The Matrix that's out there.
That's cool.
I think our Star Wars episodes like that too,
I think so. You're right. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So many cool things, but just shout out to the Dark Sky Films people who did this,
That's
because
amazing.
this is an incredible fucking idea. Love it.
All right, cool.
Great,
All right.
great.
Well, that's it for everybody this week. We'll see you next week for 1954. And but of course, we can't leave you without your Momen of Zen. All right, everybody. And we'll see you next week. Have a good rest of your week. And thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.
I'm an American film director. My name is Samuel Fuller. I'm here to make a picture in Paris called Flowers of Evil.
He wants to know exactly what this movie is.
Oh. Well, a film is like a battleground.
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
That was wicked, man.